Okay. Hi, everybody.
I'm John.
And I'm Ann.
And this is Kathy.
And this is
John and Ann's Wrestling Podcast.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to John and Ann's Wrestling Podcast. We're doing things a little differently in that we are on TikTok. We have multiple camera angles. We're doing the most because I've decided to care.
And I've decided to go along for the ride. And we've also got Kathy here, special correspondent Kathy. Kathy, what are you seeing out there?
There's no food in my bowl. And that's like the number. I'd say that's the number one thing that's concerning me right now. It's on my mind.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a little bit. But thank you for your consistently incredible coverage of your diet. But yeah, we're back, everybody. We took a little break ski.
We took a break. Well, we just do this whenever we have time. Because no one pays us to do it.
Not yet.
No one pays me to do it.
Nope.
At least. I don't know about you.
I'm definitely not funneling money away to a private account.
So the reality is it gets done when it gets done.
That's true. So be grateful is what she's saying.
I'm saying get the hell over yourselves. What do you think? This is my full-time job? It's not even my part-time job.
Man, you're doing that like yarn.
Sorry, I was trying to...
It looks like yarn and Kathy's getting real interested in it.
She's okay. She just wants food.
I know. She's real pissed that we haven't.
She's really mad. Anyway,
yet.
This has been quite a week for wrestling.
It has. You know, it was a real
some high highs and some low lows.
I mean, some of the highest highs I've ever seen and hopefully the lowest lows I'll ever see.
I wasn't so sure about that.
I didn't say that I thought they would be. I just hope they are.
Yeah, of course. We all hope that this is the worst we'll hear about, even as we know it's not.
You know you're like a monster when I can read crazy things that you've done to somebody, like, you know, in a lawsuit, and I'm like, yeah, I'm it's not surprising. You know what I mean?
No, there was nothing about it that surprised me. I will say probably the element that did surprise me was how sickening it was to read the lawsuit. And then the second most surprising thing was the fact that I read the lawsuit and Triple H, who like runs the company being sued and whose father-in-law is also personally being sued, did not find time this week to sit down and read the lawsuit.
Yeah, and that's not, that's not any sort of speculation. He's literally said that he has not read the lawsuit.
Yeah, he said last night, and he seemed annoyed that people would ask about it because like, why should anyone care about Vince McMahon who watches the WWE?
Yeah, none of you.
I guess was his...
This guy that we have been heralding for our entire... Because it was his thing, so of course we're going to talk about it. I remember when he first retired and then before he came back... Stephanie McMahon opened that SmackDown after he had announced retirement, and she made everybody do a "Thank you, Vince" chant. And then when they introduced Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship belt, or the belt that would become his, spoiler from 6 months ago or whatever, they talked about the design of it, and they were like, and it features the McMahon family crest.
The McMahon family has a crest?
Supposedly. I think when you're rich, you can just say that.
Yeah, I think when you're rich, you can just draw a little doodle and be like, it's our family crest.
It's like a little stick guy.
I love this that Kathy is blocking just your specific camera angle.
Yeah, it's great.
That's very funny.
I forget that I have a little camera angle here. I should use it.
Well, it's just so when you look at me, which you don't usually do, so it's fine.
Come on.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. So it's been quite a week.
Yeah, to update listeners who might not follow wrestling and or the news in general, Vince McMahon is being sued by a woman he allegedly preyed upon while she was grieving both her parents. She's a woman who'd been the caretaker, live-in caretaker of both her parents, who then died. And the property manager of the building wanted to help her find a job. So he asked Vince McMahon, who also lived in the building or had a place in the building, if he would help her out. And he enthusiastically said yes. And then began a years-long campaign of slowly breaking this woman down, telling her he loved her, etc., etc., and then kind of bullying her into pimping her out to other WWE executives and wrestlers, including allegedly Brock Lesnar, who allegedly requested she send a video of herself urinating.
And allegedly, this is part of contract negotiations for his contract, and allegedly was, quote, told that this would be part of his contract, that she would be required to be involved with him, let's say.
And she included the text messages.
Yeah, and I look,
so
if
and
you
they look pretty nuts.
If you had hired me to be like, write text messages from like an 80-year-old carny psycho who has not lived in the real world, how do you think this guy would write text messages? And I could not have done a better job than these text messages. These are so exactly what I would expect.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely like boomer texts.
Yeah.
For one thing, like very weird old man texts in the sense that they're like, oh, like he's using the capital letter U instead of the word you, but like capitalized U. Like it's very strange. A lot of strange dialects like that. A lot of exclamation points.
Yeah. Interesting spellings on certain words as well.
It's just there's a certain there are certain people who were never meant to have texting. And he's one of those people, and he should never have been given his access to such a medium for communication.
Allegedly. But anyway, that was going on, and that was kind of so. WWE actually had as Triple H said, an amazing week. Prior to that, they announced that big Netflix deal, which is huge for the first time ever. WWE Raw is going to be off cable television. And it's going to be on Netflix Live, which is maybe the first live thing Netflix has done. Have they ever done live programming like that? Weekly?
Live programming.
Well, this is going to be every week.
They didn't do weekly, but I think they are. I think there's another thing that's starting before this will start. Because this starts like next year, right?
Yeah, I believe.
For 2025?
Yeah.
But I think before then they're going to have like sports, if memory serves.
I mean, it makes sense from Netflix, and then it seems like also internationally, so the WWE Network had migrated in the U.S. all their content over to Peacock, including all their premium live events and all of that. But internationally, the WWE Network was still around, their own streaming platform. But with this deal outside of the U.S. and like Canada and maybe a few other places, Netflix is just going to be the new Peacock, and all their content's going to be on Netflix. All the premium live events are going to be on Netflix. Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, all three of their weekly shows are going to be on Netflix. But in the U.S., it's just going to be Raw for now, and everything else is still going to be on Peacock. SmackDown's still going to be on cable on USA, so they still have a relationship with USA, and NXT is on the CW. So it'll be be like the
CW,
like a teen drama, which actually would fit the NXT brand pretty well.
That would be awesome. That would be very cool.
It would be very cool.
I'm cuddling up here.
Yeah, get comfortable.
Well, we're talking about stressful things.
That's true.
I should be able to get a little comfy.
That's true.
Down there.
There we go.
If I can. Sorry, hang on. I just need to get myself cozy.
Yeah. This is, the first 15 minutes of a podcast are, they don't count.
I know. I'm sorry. We set up a whole new thing. And it's just, it takes a minute to kind of get into the swing of how it's going to work.
And our cat is just a little bit mad. There's one of her little Pete's right here. I see one of her Pete's. There's little Pete.
You can see him. Yeah. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say they were having quite a week. And then, it's only fair that Triple H be allowed to just focus on those things,
Yeah, so Triple H at the presser after the Royal Rumble this weekend, which it was a lovely Royal Rumble. I mean, for the most part, I liked the women's Rumble, which is the part I usually like the most.
It's the most watched Royal Rumble in history, apparently. It was maybe the highest attended Royal Rumble.
Isn't
certainly
it always,
one of them.
Though?
They say that every time.
Is it ever
every
not?
show they ever do is like, this is the most watched, this is the most
It's like, where are they getting all these new people? Like,
right?
There's only so many people on Earth. So if every year
WWE
you
is
have
cloning people.
Like if every year you have more people than you had the last year, eventually you're going to just run out of people. That doesn't make sense. It's the infinite growth fallacy. It can't happen. It can't
I want to
work
find the
that way.
WWE universe cloning tanks that they're using. I've seen Star Wars: The Bad Batch. I know what's going on. I know what you've done.
It would make sense for a lot of wrestling fans to be a bad batch of like people.
Yeah, just a bunch of weird clones. I probably
Like
am in
guys
there.
trying to start Chris Benoit chants. Oh, they're in the Bad Batch.
Yeah, they're just not. They didn't. We forgot to put a little juice in them.
Yeah,
That's
sorry, we forgot to give these guys like a sense of common decency.
Yeah. So, these guys always chant CM Punk no matter what show they're at and whether or not he's there.
They always boo Tony Khan no matter what because they think
Yeah.
he should be more like Vince McMahon.
They always stop paying attention to women's matches.
Oh yeah, they use the women's matches to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
The chicks.
Those guys.
Anyway, I don't know. We've talked about the Vince stuff a lot in our personal life, so it's hard to know what else to say about it. But
Yeah, you guys have seen all that.
I don't know. It feels very different this time because it's starting to feel just so egregious. Like, you know the phrase "they're playing in your face"?
I'm not familiar, actually.
Okay, like it's a term I've heard of here and there, and it's like when you play in somebody's face is like, oh, they're like mocking you. They're making such a fool of you by like, you know, lying to you so obviously, essentially. And that's what I feel like the WWE is doing now. And not in a fun kayfabe way where it's like, oh, we hate each other, but we don't really. In like, we're all grown-ups here. We all get the news. But for some reason, the people the news is about are pretending they never watch the news.
Yeah.
And they never read anything. And they don't know anything about what's happening at their own company. Like, to listen to people from WWE talk about this, specifically Triple H last night, you have to believe that he literally knows nothing about anything that happens anywhere in the company.
Yeah.
Because Vince was allegedly showing photos of this girl to like the tech crew, like the producers.
Yeah.
Like like this was getting around. It didn't sound like it was a dirty little secret Vince was keeping. It sounded like it was a thing Vince was like bragging to people about whenever he was alone with men. And so if that's even partially true, like if that's even 10% true, you're telling me his son-in-law who works there and is like one of the main guys
doesn't know
anything about what's going on at all. Hi, this cat is gonna.
And I understand that because Cody Rhodes actually got had a much better response to a similar question at that press conference.
Yeah,
he had like a very measured and it's still a very corporate, kind of didn't say too much response, but he did acknowledge it. He showed a level of empathy, and he did talk about it to a degree, and with no prep. But I mean, I sort of understand that there are a little bit different angles because he wasn't. Cody Rhodes is more of an innocent in this, and Triple H is like the question is a little bit like, were you culpable? And
he
it's
was.
But I mean, he definitely allegedly. It seemed like he probably was, but I understand it as far as like somebody answering that question, he could have handled it in a way where he said nothing, where he was just like, legally I can't discuss this because there's an ongoing investigation, but we'll do what's right and all that stuff. Like there are better ways to have handled it than like kind of throwing a little fit about it. And like it was just it was the worst angle he could have possibly taken.
Yeah, because it's not like, this is what's so frustrating about it. I've been thinking about it a lot. It's not that like I think what's making me mad is they're still acting like it's just about Vince, and like Vince is some sort of just like guy who happened to have been an employee in the past, right? Like they act like Vince was just some guy who worked there, some executive, and like, oh, what he's doing, we don't know. We don't know what Vince is doing. We don't know what's going on with that.
But
like,
that sucks though.
Yeah, wow. And they're
he's gone, huh?
They're just acting like he's just some guy, and they're not acting like he's the person that this all centered around for the entirety of
its existence
until this started to leak.
I mean, literally,
until this started to leak, the whole thing was built around him.
It's been 40 years of him
being the main character.
And he created the entire culture of the company and the promotion.
Yeah.
So it's like everything is centered around him. And
it's literally like Walt Disney walking among us and then getting caught or accused of something heinous and then everybody at Disney going, oh well, we didn't even read about that. What?
Yeah, we didn't even read about
You
that.
didn't even read.
The company is called Disney.
Yeah, it's like what are you talking about? You didn't even read it. Like it makes a mockery of everyone's intelligence. Like it's literally them assuming that we won't care because we won't care.
I mean, I can tell you from watching the WWE product for a very long time.
Yeah.
The majority of that is like they don't respect the people that watch it.
Yeah.
They do not care. They think you're very dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And only in the last year have they treated us with any level of intelligence as viewers. And then I would say Triple H is the one that would do that. But now when it gets too close, when it gets too uncomfortable, it's just like there are ways to respond to that. You could have also had like a PR person out there with you to be like, hey, that anybody who has these questions, like you can field them over here.
Yeah, make it seem like you're lawyering up and you're taking it seriously.
Yeah, because it is a serious enough allegation.
It's so serious
that you could, I would accept that you're like, oh, we can't talk about it right now, but
it's like these are allegations of actual rape. Like these are not allegations of like somebody playing grab ass in the office. These are deeply disturbing, violent allegations against the man who is not only Triple H's father-in-law, but the owner and creator of the whole goddamn company. And it's absolutely
textbook grooming too. It's all and manipulation.
To act like they shouldn't have anything to say about it, or that they shouldn't know what's happening, or that they haven't heard, or that they found out when we did. I mean, I think all of that is really stupid. I think it's insulting.
The whole thing is literally that like the core of this company, as you were saying, is like cancerous.
Yeah.
Because it's like you would have to literally like take the core out of it.
Yeah.
And just reconfigure the whole thing.
Because it's full of guys that like were in on this with him. That's what the whole lawsuit is about.
Yeah.
It's full of guys who knew exactly what was going on and were covering it up for him, or joining in, or like taking part. And
almost worse than like the stuff that happens, because I mean we've had reports of similar things happening in other corporations, with powerful, often men, and it's like this is like almost. It's not even shocking that it's almost worse than anything I've ever heard, because it's in wrestling. And wrestling has always been this like sideshow, sequestered, carny thing where like nobody cares enough about it kind of, and they just to like look into any of it. And so they're not living in the real world. I mean, at a certain level of wealth, you're already kind of not living in the real world, but this is like that plus being an old carny. So it's like this guy is just, he lived it like he just lived a total fantasy life. And by that, I mean, like, he just did not live in the real world. And so it's like that, and it's just all stacking on top of each other, and it just makes it much, much worse.
Yeah. It definitely explains some of, like, why it's so weird and why he thought he could get away with it for so long. Mm-hmm. I definitely think
it's like 2020 to 22, by the way. This is not like, something that happened in, like, 1987.
Yeah.
This is, so I don't even want to know what was going on in the 80s and 90s.
No.
This literally was, like,
I mean, that's the thing.
This is like COVID era.
It's like, is it we can say like, oh yeah, they're isolated, like he doesn't get it or whatever, but it's like at some point it's like, oh, but the world is changing.
Oh yeah, that's not an excuse. That's just that like I know how they got there.
No, I know. I'm just saying like that was the case, for a long time, where it's like he was isolated and like in this world where like everything was up to him and it didn't matter what he did because he could do anything he wanted. But that world literally just doesn't exist anymore. And and that adds like salt in the wound, I think, of like knowing that world no longer exists, can no longer exist, because Vince doesn't even have an ownership stake in the company anymore.
Yeah.
Like he literally can't exert his will in the same way that he used to. But they're still keeping that code of silence as though he did, which is like, to me, a tacit acknowledgement that they know they are all in trouble if they say anything. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like they either are worried Vince will flip and start leaking stuff about other people to draw the heat off of himself.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of these things that are in there could be.
Yeah, because if somebody, like if Triple H goes out there and says something wild about Vince or condemns him or something, who knows what Vince could leak about him?
Yeah.
I'm not allegedly. I'm not saying I know anything. I don't, but I'm just imagining.
It's also roster members too.
I'm imagining if this is the kind of stuff that was going on behind closed doors, to a person who was brave enough to go public with it.
And I don't even want to think this, but obviously, if he was using this stuff in contract negotiations with one wrestler.
I mean, it's like Vince has always had his favorites, and there's always been that weird culture of like, this guy's getting a push, even though everybody, like, there's a certain wrestler that you talk about a lot having been pushed for years and years and years, and people were sick of him and had a little chant about how he sucked, and it was like inexplicable why he kept getting pushed all the time, to the point where another wrestler he really liked left the company over some bitterness of it. And it makes you wonder about those specific people and their excitedness to stand next to Vince when he first came back, and what that means about them. And I feel like they don't know that we know that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
that's what I mean by the sequestered carny world, because a lot of these people, like a lot of wrestlers in WWE, I think also are like, and we've read it in, books about Vince and like, just, I mean, all these, like, I've watched wrestling most of my life at this point, and it's just like, just from like osmosis of taking a lot of this in, I feel like a lot of people who have worked in WWE as talent, and probably everywhere, but I'm just focusing us on wrestlers right now, are basically brainwashed by this guy, because he probably is very good at manipulating people into being like, I'm like a father figure to you, And I mean, this lawsuit, if you read that sounds very similar to how, and it's like, it's also in the entertainment industry, you prey upon people's passion and stuff like that too. And so a lot of people are like, I love Vince, he's got his flaws, but because you had good experiences with him, or he just like brainwashes you into thinking like he's the best, and he probably does have some good qualities if you have a relationship with him, but you just ignore everything else, and it's your brain won't let you even think like, oh, he's bad. No, he's Vince.
Because especially if you think about the superstars who have big careers but aren't from like wrestling families, you see people who might feel like they owe Vince more than they really do, because they think like, oh, he saved me. If it wasn't for Vince, I would have been like, wrestling for $20 God knows where,
Vince gave me my push. Vince did this. Vince is a genius.
Whereas like, you think about people like Cody Rhodes and stuff, they're from, they're Nepo babies, for lack of a better phrase.
Well, and also Cody's father was a guy that Vince didn't really, I mean, he did have him running NXT for a while there, but like Dusty Rhodes was famously somebody that did it on his own, and that's why when he went to WWF in like the early 90s or whatever, he was wearing polka dots and he was dancing, and Vince did try to humiliate people. Sting showed up in 2015 after 15 years almost of being like, I don't want to go to WWF. They're just gonna like kind of shit on me. Hi. For lack of a better term. And he put it off, and then he finally went, and we were all like, it's been so long, surely. Because Vince would routinely humiliate stars that he did not make. If you weren't somebody that he made, there's a reason why the final battle between WWF and WCW was on Survivor Series was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. It was two of Vince's people. And so like Sting finally went, and then he still lost to Triple H for literally no reason. There was no reason for Triple H to win that match. And it's just so...
I wonder what he won.
Indicative. What?
I said, I wonder what Triple H won.
Oh, you wonder what was in the contract?
Yeah. Hang on, I got a cat. She's coming through.
Yeah, hang on. We got a cat. Cat break.
Cat break. Do. Cat break while talking about the allegations. Yeah, anyway, I'm pretty fed up over all this, and... I mean, I really enjoyed the Rumble. I'm happy that Bayley won the women's Rumble.
Yeah, I do want to talk about positives after this. We should talk about the positives. We should
focus on the positives.
We should focus on the positives.
Yeah. We should focus on the reasons people should keep watching this show no matter what they do.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that makes me so mad is I was explaining this to you earlier. I was like, it feels like we all have to miss out on this like ceremony of what we do as a society when stuff like this comes out. Like it's a young process for this, but we have a process for this in the corporate world where like wrongdoings are admitted to, investigations are done, people lose their jobs, there's a big house cleaning, like maybe somebody even goes to jail for, you know,
every once in a while
things that are illegal. And like we can be mad and, you know, be outraged, and people issue apologies and things like that. But like when they refuse to acknowledge anything, and when they're just like, no, we're just going to focus on the positive, we're not even going to think about that, it robs the audience of the ability to acknowledge that it like something happened.
Yeah.
And it just makes you feel insane, and it makes you feel insulted, and it makes you feel like it's just it becomes all I can think about, because it's like the elephant in the room. Like you're just it's like, oh, we're just going to pretend this isn't happening. Like that expression comes from somewhere. It's the elephant in the room is unignorable.
Yeah.
Because it's like this huge thing, like and every time, like I really enjoyed the women's rumble. The men's rumble I think was a little harder for me to get into because again, the elephant in the room is sitting there. So every time a man who works for WWE shows up on screen now, I'm like, what did you know and when did you know it? Like,
what was in your contract?
What did you do? Like what have you been part of behind the scenes? What does the dildo Vince keeps named after you look like? You know,
I mean, and
all of these questions fill my head in ways that I cannot fight and ignore because I'm a regular person with thoughts and emotions, and they don't expect that of me apparently. But anyway, that's why another reason why this has been a very frustrating week. Because I did like the women's rumble. I liked seeing Bayley. I liked seeing Liv. I liked seeing all the gals. I liked Io Sky in her leather dress, watching the rumble with her arm on a table like she was taking a graduation photo. Yeah. I loved all of it.
Yeah.
But that is a dark cloud that hangs over it, and it's insulting to not have them acknowledge any part of it.
Especially when their main person's catchphrase, the face of the company's catchphrase is acknowledge me.
Right.
Acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. Hunter?
Acknowledge what's happening in the real world, my friend. Like, you care about listening to the crowd so much. Listen to the goddamn crowd.
It's so funny, too, because they have always loved talking. It always goes, but like, some of it's almost vindicating in a way to be like, I wasn't crazy watching this whole time and feeling, because like they always love to tout the fans and all this stuff, and it's like they classically do not care.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it has been better since Vince has no longer been in charge of like the creative process, but there are reasons why 10 years ago at the Royal Rumble, people were literally hijacking the show and like just like booing the hell out of John Cena versus Randy Orton because they were not listening to them, and they would just try to justify everything. We know what we're doing, and it's like they don't listen to anybody, and they tried to manipulate you into thinking, you know, and it's very frustrating. And this is just, you know, this is what was going on, and I wish that it wasn't, and I hope that at least this leads to it no longer happening.
And it's like, if we sound tired, it's because we are.
We are. I'm very tired.
Because it is exhausting to not be able to, like, to know that they're just going to ignore this until more comes out. And we just have to sit here and wait for it.
What's happening to other people there? Like, I mean...
And we all have to quietly know that this is going on, and that, like, there are people still working there who were okay with this on some level. Like...
The techs?
We have to know that
those
now.
techs?
And just, like, keep moving forward, I guess. Like... Focus on the positives. Don't worry about who's sending pics of victimized young women to each other.
This isn't the only NDA either.
No, it's not. And hopefully it gets rid of a lot of them, because that's her goal, which I think is really admirable. Like, there have been people online obviously trying to...
Yeah, you try, but they like those typical like stupid sexist trolling like, oh, they just want money or whatever. Like, you can try to make it apply to this, but it doesn't, because she does want money that she was legally.
Yeah,
he legally agreed to pay her.
He would pay her.
Like, the lawsuit's not for the stuff in the lawsuit. The lawsuit's like the NDA. You didn't pay me like 2/3 of it.
It's so funny because even like that horrible Triple H response is so indicative of how much trouble they're in, because even he couldn't even attempt to like
sugarcoat it
or fight it or say anything about it. He had to pretend he hadn't read it which I do think he's pretending. I think he
Of course,
lied.
no, he had to have read it. That's insane.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely nuts that he is like, we found out about when you did. That's absolutely.
He is on the board of directors.
Yeah, there is absolutely no way that he knew about this when I did. But shoot, I lost my train of thought. Oh no. Wait.
No, we need your perspective.
I know we need my perspective. What were we just talking about?
If you know, anybody on the TikTok live, you remember we were just talking about. Well, it's just that Triple H was ignoring things, and this is the one of 3 or multiple NDAs, and that.
We were talking about the Twitter trolls coming after her.
Yeah, and trying so hard.
Yeah, no,
but less.
it's
There's
like
less than normal.
Even Triple H couldn't do the whole these allegations are false and disgusting, whatever, we'll fight them tooth and nail. Like, he couldn't do that because her lawsuit is about the language of the NDAs she had to sign being too extreme to be applicable legally, which, if that turns out to be true at all, might apply to many other NDAs that have been signed by women. And she's suing for the money that he said he would pay her if she signed it.
And I don't even think
he didn't pay her.
And I don't even think he's disputed this NDA. Like, when the NDA came out originally, he was like, yeah.
Right. And it's wild because you can't even if you want to be cynical and nasty and like, oh, these women, they're just money grubbers. It's like, okay, sure. But like, if you agree to pay someone money, you have to pay them money.
Yeah.
That's how contracts work, babe.
I know sometimes people like to
facts don't care about your feelings. I know it makes you mad that fucking Vince
money
is like
talks.
inconvenienced by this, but if he signed something that said he would do this and he didn't do it, guess what? The whole point of a contract is that you can take someone to court if they violate it. If she had violated the NDA, he would have taken her to court.
Oh yeah, of course.
So it's like you look so stupid trying to make any one of these arguments, because it's like you're a child. It's like you're a child who thinks daddy shouldn't have to go to jail just because he shot somebody. Like,
Kathy looked at me. She's like, Daddy.
I understand that you're devoted to this man beyond all logic, but like, my God, you look foolish, like trying to make this case at all. Anyway, you wanted to talk about the positives?
Yeah, I think we should just be focusing on the positives, right, Kathy?
Yeah.
Right, Schmathrin.
But we can.
Bailey won. That was
Bailey
cool.
won the Royal Rumble.
The Royal Rumble. We'll talk about other stuff after this too. But Royal Rumble was, a solid show. I do think, as much as I enjoyed the show, I do think that it might have just been me. It might have just been that the venue was too big for the crowd to make as much noise as was necessary. But it did feel like there was a cloud hanging over it the whole time. And it did take some of the wind out of, I feel like, everybody's sails. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everybody, because it doesn't suck that it's coming out. That's
it's hard to feel
unfortunately
good.
a good thing, but it does suck that it's like, this is what obviously what to think about this.
Everything we just talked about. Like, it's hard to feel good about supporting a company you expect the worst from.
And then you have to go out there and be that company. You have to perform. Something you've worked your whole life for, and now it's like, oh God, what?
It's like, we don't expect them to do anything about this. They don't do anything about it, and we're all supposed to just be like, okay, well, I guess this company is run by pieces of shit. Like, I don't know.
Hey, there's Logan Paul.
Like, like, am I supposed to be thrilled that like more rich and powerful people are horribly corrupt and abusive towards the vulnerable? Like, what are we excited about here?
But Bailey won, so that was cool.
Bailey won.
The women's rumble was really fun. I really enjoyed. That was my favorite rumble.
Yeah.
Of the 2 rumbles.
I think, and I really liked. I mean, I hate to be so mean to the boys. I'm not trying to be. The last 2 years, the women's rumbles have been really good, I thought.
They were good. I do think I preferred the men's rumble last year over the women's rumble, but I still liked both of them. This year, I preferred the women's rumble over the men's rumble.
The Rhea Ripley, Asuka, Liv on the apron thing, where Rhea pulls Liv off with her scissor kicking legs. That was one of the best
finishes I've ever seen in a rumble.
I mean, it was such a great finish.
They were pretty even last year, I think I would say. Now that I'm remembering it. But this year, I would say the women's rumble more.
Yeah, I
2 years ago,
really liked the women's rumble.
Both of them were stinkers. That whole show was a stinker. That was the Lesnar and Ronda Rousey. And
I remember
that
this.
Weird Seth Rollins.
They
Roman
were like
Reigns
the surprises we were supposed to be excited about.
Yeah, and it was like, and I predicted the entire thing. I think I might have even said it on the podcast where it was like, I know. Bobby Lashley is going to. So it was Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar for the WWE title. Roman Reigns had his Universal title match earlier in the night. I was like, Roman Reigns is going to interfere to cost Lesnar the match. Lashley will win the title. Then Lesnar will come out, probably number 30 in the Rumble, win the Rumble, and then he'll have. And it was just like, this is. And then they ended up having, because Lashley was hurt, they had Lesnar win the title back on the way, and then they did that unification match, which they're not. I know they're not going to say that they've retired a title. Because Roman Reigns is still technically the WWE champion and the Universal champion, despite only having one belt. Because his Universal title reign is longer. He's had that longer. So if they say, like, they can't retire that title, basically the new one he's had longer, so that's what the streak is tied to, like the day streak. But the one with all the history, which maybe it's better to get rid of, the one with all the history, the 60-year history, is the WWE title that he won more recently. But I think what's going to happen is once, hopefully, Cody Rhodes wins that title, they'll say officially, at least on like their website or whatever, that the Universal title is retired, and they'll just move forward with the WWE title because they won't have to worry about that anymore. But anyway. But Bayley won. Bayley was a great winner. I think Bayley was the perfect winner.
Yeah.
Liv Morgan's even cooler now because she smokes weed.
Yeah, Liv Morgan's been arrested for having too much fun.
Yeah.
And then she was there as number 30, like, what's up? In her Christina Aguilera outfit.
Yeah, that was cool. You pointed that out.
Yeah. And, all right, should we talk about AEW?
I guess those are our only thoughts on the. I would say I'm very happy for Cody Rhodes. It's time for Cody Rhodes, not just because I'm wearing an American Nightmare shirt. I will say, CM Punk looked pretty good too. I'm glad they went with Cody Rhodes though. What was my one thing? Oh yeah, what I think would be very funny is if this like fully tanks WWE, and TNA buys them for their tape library. And then TNA does like a rise and fall of WWE documentary. And it's like, and at first thing I was like, oh, they should do like the WWE style revisionist history to make them look really bad. And I'm like, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can just say what really happened.
Yeah, just retcon it to be the truth.
Because TNA is looking good right now. They're starting off the year hot.
Yeah, their champion was in the Royal Rumble.
Jordan Grace looked great in that Rumble too. She looked better than, I mean, no offense to Ivy Nile. Ivy Nile's, she's doing her best. She's very new. And she and Jordan Grace had a little face-off, and they were kind of similar gimmicks. And it's like Jordan Grace looked like a pro. Jordan Grace has also been wrestling a lot longer than Ivy Nile. But what I'm saying is TNA is looking great.
Yeah. Congrats, guys.
Congrats, guys. We know you watch.
Yeah. Okay. Should we talk about the AEW Collision?
I thought, AEW Collision was. I watched it today because I watched it the day after the Royal Rumble. A lot of times I will watch Collision live and I'll watch the WWE pay-per-view later. But this one was the Royal Rumble, and it is, one of the bigger shows of the year. It's usually my favorite WWE pay-per-view of the year. But Collision was actually a really good show. I mean, it was good, like, counter-programming. I've heard this used by some of my wrestle pals. And Counter-programming. And it's like, WWE has a huge pay-per-view. We know what's going on here, so we're just going to do a show that's maybe not super hugely important, but just is a really good, solid, well-booked show if you do watch it. And it was great all night. Some great matches. I mean, and it wasn't like, most of the winners were fairly... Eddie Kingston commentary. And it was great, too, because Eddie Kingston was going to leave, and then Bryan Danielson came out being all disrespectful to him. I love that Bryan Danielson's one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, and he's so good at being, like, just a total jock shithead.
Yeah.
That you like. I want Eddie Kingston to kill him. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just like destroy him. He just is so, because I think it's like he just turns up different. He's so good at turning up different aspects of his personality. Like when he wants to. He can be an underdog, likable everyman. He can be a jock dickhead. He can be an environmentalist, like in a good way, or an environmentalist in an obnoxious way. Like the Planet's Champion thing that he did in WWE after he came back from his first retirement is one of the best gimmicks of all time. That custom belt where it was the hemp strap and it's all wood from a naturally fallen oak tree instead of a leather belt with metal and like gold. It's like beautiful stuff. So, but there was a lot of stories pushed forward, a lot of great matches. And even if the winners weren't ever really in doubt. It was still showcasing a lot of younger talent. Still good to get Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty. I think Lee Moriarty should. I guess I could put this in my fantasy booking.
Okay.
Great. So, I'll just say it now. Lee Moriarty, he should win the ROH Pure Championship because it fits his like style of wrestling. But I think he should be like, Pure rules aren't good enough for me because he does Taiga style, and he's like, I want Taiga rules, and it's like something like submissions and knockouts only, no rope breaks at all. Like you got to be 2 out of 3 falls, something like that. He has his own rules, and I'm like, oh man, that'd be awesome. But it was a really great show. They had a women's segment with Toni Storm and Mariah May, and then they also had 2 women's matches.
Yeah. People are leaning into women in wrestling. Maybe because they are trying to make up for some horrible crimes.
Yeah, I mean, AEW's also got its own issues.
Yeah.
So
everybody's got to act like they've been nice to women this whole time.
Yeah, this whole
that is
time.
the
whole time.
That is the one thing about this moment that, as a woman, is like a little bit like 5% of me is like, yeah, you better be nice to us.
No, we love Mariah May.
Better be nice to us.
Oh, come on.
Until we forget.
Till we get so caught up in Lady Frost.
That is something I'd be really interested to hear about from one of the female superstars at WWE, which is like, how much do you actually worry about them ending the women's division? Which is a thing they've done like twice in their history of
they got rid of the women's title.
Just being like, never mind, and like because when you think about like other industries stuff like this happens in, you think about like people signing open letters and like all kinds of stuff that just doesn't happen with wrestling. And I know part of that is the whole carny vibe, but the other part of it I think is like I wonder if there's real fear in the women's division that like, if we start becoming too much of a problem, they'll just get rid of all of us.
Or even they won't get rid of them, they'll just like make it so, because I think
humiliate us.
Getting rid of it is like too obvious. And so what they would do is just turn it back to like Divas era where everybody's doing, and they're not often like outside of like Bailey and Becky Lynch and stuff. A lot of people are all still in this. It's like you have 2 minutes, go out there, you're one with a roll up. You know what I mean? And it's like, they probably won't be doing like bra and panties matches anymore, but it still would be like not fun. It wouldn't be fun to work there and be a wrestler.
They could book it badly until they justify getting rid of it.
Yeah, they could be like, this is our lowest rated
nobody
segment.
cares about this anymore. You don't have any good stories, and there's no reason to have a women's match at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Like
we'll have one.
Yeah. Like we'll have it. We'll hear from.
It's 3 nights. We'll have one.
I mean, AEW proved you can get away with doing a lot of big wrestling shows with like one women's match that's barely anything at all. So like,
but now they're doing more, so it's good. It was good.
More.
It was like almost. I don't know. I was gonna say half the show was women's stuff. That's probably a hard exaggeration, but it was a lot more, and they're focusing a lot more. The Mariah May stuff is great.
Yeah, Mariah May is awesome.
Queen Aminata is up and coming, and she doesn't have like a character story yet, but she can tell. Serena Deeb was back. That was awesome.
Yeah.
She looked great, and she also was like, she cut a great promo, and the crowd was so excited for her. And it's like, I know they're in like kind of a down period business wise with like attendance and stuff, but WWE almost shut down 30 years ago. I mean, they had to do WrestleMania in or like Stamford or whatever because they couldn't afford to go anywhere else. And WCW seemed like they were going to destroy them. And it's just like, but it's great because we're in a wrestling world now where it doesn't, like, I like that there's another big company in AEW, but there doesn't have to be all these big companies. Like I've said before, you can watch wrestling every single day and never watch a frame of WWE, which isn't even necessarily, again, an indictment of WWE. It's just that it's like, it's great that you can watch all these. You don't even have to watch a big one. You can watch AEW, but you don't even have to watch that. You can watch GCW. You can watch TNA as like kind of a medium one. You can watch all sorts of indie wrestling. There's Japanese wrestling, Mexican wrestling. There's stuff, British wrestling.
Yeah, I think
everywhere.
I think there might have been an Effie's Big Gay Brunch this weekend.
I think there may have been because I saw stuff on Instagram. I love GCW. It's very hard to keep up with the show schedule.
There's so much of it, and I honestly, like I've told you this, I love GCW because I've learned that I love going to wrestling live when I can be like relatively close to the ring. And that like these bigger shows, like I really enjoyed going to AEW, and I would go to other AEW shows for sure when they're in town because they're not in town that often.
Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't want to go once a month to like an arena wrestling show where I'm up in like the 200, 300 section. You know, like I feel like that's a it's nice to be here, whatever, eat candy, kind of fun with my friends, but like I'm not really getting a lot from the wrestling itself.
Yeah.
Because I'm so far away and I
can be
can't hear the
hard.
commentary and I'm just like missing certain aspects of it. Whereas with GCW, I don't necessarily miss the commentary because I'm right there and I feel very part of it and like,
It's like going to that's just too inside. I was going to say going to a UCB show where you're like kind of part of the show.
well, it's like going
You
to
all
a
know that.
concert. It's like going to a concert. Like I'm sure it's very cool to go see Taylor Swift at the Eras Tour. But if you're up in the 300, it's kind of like, well, I went to say I went, and like I got to sing with my friends and dance, but I wasn't anywhere near Taylor Swift.
I mean, I will say, you're pointing this out and it made me
versus
think.
like seeing a band you like at a bar or a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, cool, I'm here for this really intimate experience that my energy is very much helping to cultivate.
You pointed this out to me and it did make me realize that it's like, WrestleMania was cool. That like, I've been to 2 WrestleManias, both at MetLife Stadium, and the first time was in 2013, and I didn't have a lot of money. Not that I have a lot of money now, but I had even less then. And so I sat almost all the way in the back, and it was cool just to be there. I mean, it was one of the worst WrestleManias probably of all time for the most part, but it was still cool to be there. The CM Punk Undertaker match was probably an all-time great WrestleMania match, and that was very cool. That was worth being there for.
Yeah.
But it was, being that far back, it was like, oh, it's a little far back, but it was okay. It was all I could do anyway. But then I went a couple years later in 2019, and I probably could have afforded like a little bit closer, but I still sat like almost not quite the back, but like one or two of it. And it was just like, this is too far. I mean, it was still a very enjoyable show, but it was like, this is just too far back. And so it was okay though when WrestleMania was like the only show that was like a huge stadium.
Exactly.
Like I'll even give them the 300 section in an arena. Like
because it's like once a year.
Yeah, but
and
now
it's the biggest show.
But now almost every WWE pay-per-view is in like some kind of baseball or football stadium that's like 60,000 people. And it's just like every show, and it kind of I think hurt the Royal Rumble reactions a little bit. Like I don't know if people were just not that, but it sounded like not that loud to me.
Yeah,
and
it sounded way too big. It was like it was eating it.
Like there were some big moments and stuff. The crowd was very hot for Bayley. Everybody loved Bayley, and but it just was like also very impressive. They did get just 4 matches to do a 4-hour show, and I know that 2 of the matches are an hour long, so that helped. But also, they fit a lot of commercials into that pay-per-view, and a lot of them were in the Fatal 4-Way entrances.
Yeah,
at least 2 of them were fully like Peacock commercials. But yeah, AEW Collision was great. Very solid show. Really great main event. And it's just great to see them just do a great damn wrestling show. It's just a simple wrestling show, and I just love it.
Yeah.
And
should we do shooting range, gossip corner?
Shooting range, I feel like we did. I mean, if you have any other stuff to shoot on.
No, I think we did a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do the awards?
The awards for prettiest cat in the world is for Kathy. Sorry.
Okay. Promo of the week.
I said Tony Storm and Deonna Purrazzo on Dynamite, which was great because they did half and half. Half the screen was black and white, and half the screen was in color. Because Timeless Tony Storm exists in the 1950s Hollywood era.
Yeah.
And it was great, and it's just very funny. I mean, Tony Storm is just bulletproof on being funny right now, and she's absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
And Deonna Purrazzo is also great. I love the way they're presenting her character. They have the matching tattoos. And Tony Storm admitted that she knew who she was. She was like, I know who you are, Deonna Purrazzo. She said her name.
Yeah, that was
her
good.
Legit name.
I liked that. No, that was great. I would have picked that, but because you picked it, I'm going to pick Stooley Hathaway.
Stooley?
Stooley.
What's Stooley?
Well, they had a promo where Chris Statlander and Willow were meeting up with Stokely Hathaway to finally reveal to Stokely whether he would manage Statlander. And she said no, but the main takeaway from it was someone called him Stooley.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like silly. And I enjoyed it. It was very funny. And so I'm going to pick that for my promo of the week. My other promo of the week, though, is kind of a shooting range thing because this was not technically a promo, but anything a wrestler says in public to me is a promo. So I have to give Ronda Rousey some credit here because she's the only wrestler, aside from maybe Ryan Nemeth, because you mentioned Ryan Nemeth saying something.
Oh, yeah, that we could have talked about that.
Which is the only female wrestler that I know of who has said anything about the Vince stuff. And has been calling and tweeted something calling out WWE because they still have an executive employed there who's essentially a Vince puppet.
Yeah, Bruce Pritchard.
Bruce Pritchard.
Which we all know, but it's great to have somebody point it out.
This is the whole thing that drives me up the wall is like when there's something we all know, but we're not supposed to say it and we're all supposed to pretend like it's not happening. That's what drives me up the wall. And so the fact that she said it is very brave and very cool, especially because now she's like in all these matches with like AEW people and she's kind of like Ring of Honor coded. I think that's a great look for her, is to be like the woman who's on the indies kind of.
Yeah, she's got some redemption she needs to try to get for.
She can follow a real
tweets.
CM Punk blazed trail with all this, you know, like she left there and now she's gonna do some indie stuff, be the truth teller that we need, not the one we want. She's a flawed vessel, but she's got a message, and so I really liked that too. Anyway,
that was great.
Match of the week.
I went with there were no there were.
You can't have two.
I only have one. I only have
Okay.
one. Don't worry. I'm gonna go with. Sorry, the cat was licking my ear. She does that sometimes when she wants attention because she's very upset that we're not feeding her yet.
Don't
so
self-harm. She tries to eat the plant.
That plant is not toxic to her, by the way.
But she
it is
just
not.
likes to act out by eating it.
We made sure that all of our plants are non-toxic for kitties. But my match of the week, I'm going to go with, I think it was the last match that I actually saw, and it's been a heck of a week. A lot of good stuff in AEW and in New Japan. Lots of big things happening in New Japan. But FTR and Daniel Garcia versus House of Black in that elimination steel cage match, that was great. And like,
it was great.
It was just so well worked. Like everything about it was so intense and brutal, and it was so like just well structured.
And the race at the end.
The race at the end, and then like the finish was a callback to the beginning, and it was just and I like had forgotten about, and it was so good, and it just brought a lot of characters together, and it was really just a perfect little non like championship related feud too. It was just really great.
Yeah. I like that. I think I'm going to pick the Women's Rumble because it was exciting. It was fun. Jade Cargill made her debut, which was really
great.
cool. And Bayley won, which I think is great and sets up a really exciting story. And I think Becky getting eliminated by Jade, because Jade eliminated both Becky and another big star. Who else did she?
Oh, yeah.
She threw them out at the same time.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Is it Bianca? Was it Bianca?
No, because Bianca got eliminated by Tiffany Stratton pulling her ponytail.
Right.
Which I would say I can understand 100% how maybe this was like a good idea on paper and but like don't ever do that spot again because having a very strong person holding on to your hair with all their weight and trying to like fall, I could see her neck, like the strain on her neck until she like started to like turn her head. Like I get it. Don't try it again. I don't need to see anybody's neck get broken by this. But yeah, and also it was funny with the Women's Rumble that everybody like afterwards they showed everybody like the last 10 people or whatever that got eliminated were all just sitting around the ring all pissed off, and I was like, why did they stay?
Yeah.
You never stay.
Jade. Oh wait, did Jade not eliminate Bayley? I thought she did.
Not Bayley. Nobody eliminated Bayley.
Oh, not Bayley. I mean Becky. Sorry. Becky Lynch was eliminated by Naomi, and then Naomi was eliminated by Jade. Oh, because they fell at the same time. I thought Jade had knocked them both out, but it must be that Naomi was pushing Becky off, and then Jade pushed Naomi off. I remember that a little better now.
That is correct.
That was really great, and I thought it set Jade up to be a real, have a feud and be really, and do great things. So that was exciting.
I do love how active our cat is during this.
I know, because she knows it's like very nearly dinner. She's
like,
finish these awards so I can eat.
Yeah, the award for hungriest kitty goes to Kathy.
Okay, outfit of the week.
Outfit of the week. I picked Xia Li. There were many, many, many cool outfits in the Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble. that I really enjoyed. Xia Li's was cool. She had cool face paint. I think it's just because I don't see her that much. So it's just like, this is cool. But she also had swords. And I got to say, any wrestler who comes out with swords, use them.
Yeah.
What are we doing? If you could win, just come in there with the swords. Just start. And people will jump out.
Yeah.
Once there's a sword involved, you know?
Yeah. I am going to pick Liv Morgan's outfit because she dressed as Christina Aguilera from the Dirty music video. And I didn't recognize it at the moment.
Which Dirty music video?
It's called Dirty.
I know.
Okay. I didn't recognize it at the time, but then later she tweeted about it to make sure everybody got the reference. And I was like, oh, perfect. Because I couldn't tell if that was just like an iconic Liv Morgan outfit or something. Anyway, that was great. Okay, shock of the week.
I picked Jordan Grace in the Women's Royal Rumble because I think the last time they did it, it was a little bit different because Mickie James was, at the time, the Impact Knockouts champion. And it was a little bit different because they had, I think, less people on the roster, so like they really needed to pull in people. And also, Mickie James is like a WWE legend, so it wasn't crazy to have her on. She just happened to be, like, they could have just not mentioned that she was the Knockouts champion. But Jordan Grace has like no connection to WWE that I can recall. I don't think she's ever been in NXT or anything. And so to have her was like a huge deal. Yeah. And she looked great and she was over as hell. So that was awesome.
Yeah. My shock of the week, you know, aside from the like lawsuit,
focus on the positive.
I would say it's Naomi coming back because I think that was a coup for her. It was really exciting. It felt really good. Especially with John Laurinaitis being named in this suit and being fired. The fact that the girl who put her belt on his desk and was like, F you, I'm out of here, allegedly.
It's so crazy that everyone
is now back and getting to open the Royal Rumble. You know, I think that was really cool. And she looked great.
And she was in there for a long time, too.
Yeah, she made it almost to the end. She was one of the final eliminations.
All right. Yeah, she was.
All right. Nerd fantasy booking, and then we're out of here.
I think Cody Rhodes should be the chief content officer of WWE at some point.
Which is Triple H's job?
That's Triple H's job, baby.
Oh.
So after he wins the title, after he retires.
Okay, I have one that I thought of that's rather detailed, but I'm excited about it. Okay, so what I think is that Vince McMahon should go to jail. And
we're done.
And he should spend the rest of his life in jail. And his son, Shane McMahon, should go to work at AEW. I love your...
I just don't want him involved. I just don't want any of them involved in anything.
I think it'd be funny because I think he should be subordinate to Tony Khan and play like yes, Mr. Khan, like a right hand man, like almost a Paul Heyman character for Tony Khan. As penance for his father's crimes.
You know what they should do? They should have him come in and then treat him the way that Vince would treat all NWA and WCW legends. Like, have them he has to lose to, like, Danhausen. You know what I mean? He's like Danhausen's partner, which is no insult to Danhausen. I love Danhausen.
No, but he's like...
We get it.
We make it silly. We make it...
Yeah, humiliate... what you didn't create. Humiliate Vince's creations.
He gets to pay some penance and like redeem himself as a person.
Yeah.
By, you know, kind of bringing the McMahon name back into the world of fun wrestling instead of his father's world of pain and hate.
Yeah.
And I think if we do that in like 20 years, karmically, this whole industry will be like much better.
Yeah, we'll be better. And Stephanie, just enjoy your retirement.
Yeah.
You might get off here. So just
Stephanie, find out what your husband did and make sure you're somewhere safe. That's all I want to know.
I mean, she was an executive too. I don't know what she may have known some things.
I know, but you know, none of us is one of the guys. That's my favorite phrase. None of us is one of the guys. Even if you're somebody's daughter, it doesn't mean you know what they were up to.
That's true. It doesn't
mean they were sharing that with you because you're a girl. So there is absolutely a very fine line between the people Vince McMahon wants to have throughways with.
He did pitch a storyline where they were having sex.
True.
So I'm just saying, it seems like you seem like you're in the best position out of the four. So just enjoy it and just hopefully that's, anyway. Godspeed to you, Stephanie.
Anyway,
we did it.
If Stephanie wants to work at AEW, I would accept that too, but I wouldn't want her to be humiliated.
honestly, they could use more women up top.
But I think
Stephanie McMahon famously created the women's revolution.
Yeah, it was all her. It was totally.
That was what she kept saying, or what they kept saying.
And I'm sure she wouldn't say something that wasn't true.
No.
Okay.
Anyway, good luck, Steph.
Well, that's our show. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. And we'll be back later.
We got to go feed a cat.
Bye.